Why go the SPAC route?
Yeah, I think it's a really great question. And if I just take a step back here for a second, just to sort of kind of set the stage. So we are designing and developing electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. And these are vehicles that are designed for urban air mobility. And so you get this like big step change in technology when you take these vehicles and you go electric. So I just want to kind of set the stage and help you understand and frame like what's happening here. So there's no actual new like science breakthrough that we're waiting for. There's no regulatory changes that we're waiting for. It's actually a fairly simple story, right? You have these vehicles called helicopters, which everybody knows are very expensive, very loud, and in some cases can be dangerous. They're not as safe as they necessarily could be. And so when you go electric, you get this huge, advantage here, where the big advantage is batteries are now dense enough to put these into vehicles, and you can take these motors and rotors and shrink them way down. So electric motors scale down efficiently instead of these big combustion engines that don't scale down efficiently. And when you do that, you have these really redundant vehicles. So a helicopter will have something like 200 to 300 critical parts. That means if any of those parts fail, you can have a catastrophic incident. So that's why helicopters can be dangerous. And so with electric, you get 0 single points of failure in these vehicles, 0. So they're super redundant, super safe vehicles. The second thing happens when you can shrink the rotors and the motors down, you also can change the noise profile. So you're not having that deep whop whop sound like a helicopter generates. That's hugely important. So if you think that the helicopter industry, the vertical takeoff landing industry was to scale, it's really challenging just because they're super loud vehicles. So even if it wasn't expensive, people did want to take them and they were safe, you still can't do it because of noise issues. So now when you go electric, you also get the noise benefit here too. You can do a lot of things to change the shape of those rotors and motors to help make the sound significantly quieter. And then because they're electric, you can also utilize these vehicles really heavily. And so you can bring the cost down to something significant. Now, in order to do all that big hardware projects, and you're seeing it across kind of a lot of these different hardware companies, it's obviously very capital intensive to do that. And so we think it'll take somewhere between $600 and $700 million to get to market. $600–700 million to be able to build out this company, get to free cash flow break even. So what a typical startup or venture-backed company would do is they go and they raise 50 million, then 100 million, then 200 million, then 300 million. But this amazing thing happened where the world recognized, wow, it's a really important time right now to be focused on these EV companies, to be focused on decarbonization. And that, wow, the future is moving towards electrification of transport. And so I feel incredibly lucky that the market has recognized that. And so what we were able to do with this SPAC transaction, and directly answering your question, is raise all the capital we need to get to market in one swoop. And that is incredible. It's great for our investors. It allows us to be able to focus on actually building the industry and not just capital raising all the time. So a huge advantage for the EV companies, and I think will help really bring the electrification of transportation, not just in the air, but into all forms of transportation.